Well, greetings to you. I just thought I'd run a few things past you from a geopolitical standpoint because we are not getting anything from mainstream media which tells the truth or tells things as they are. And we used to have in the Daily Telegraph people who did that. If those of you who will remember Claire Hollingworth and John Keegan and various other experts who would give their views in the Daily Telegraph and perhaps the Sunday papers, telling things how they really are and giving us it warts and all. We're not getting that at the moment, and mainstream media, legacy media, call it what you will, just get CIA press releases read out by presenters or MI6, so on and so forth. And it's all heavily deep state vetted. So it means that you're not getting the truth and things start to take you by surprise. And we've got some very dangerous flashpoints on the face of the globe at the moment. We have the Ukraine and Russian Federation conflict, which of course is now drawing to a close. But of course, that's when these things can often become the most dangerous because although the war is drawing to a close, this is where things, a bit like the wounded tiger, it's at its most dangerous when it's wounded and it's dying. And that's the kind of situation we have at the moment. Let's look at the British involvement. I'm only interested in the British involvement, which is a covert joint belligerent in these matters. So we've given Ukraine Storm Shadow missiles, military intelligence, so on and so forth. We've given all these things constantly and along with billions of pounds so that they can keep this war going, which largely goes, is either embezzled or goes to the military industrial complex in the United States. Now, basically we're beginning to find that out. I mean, I warned everybody about this a couple of years ago, but now people are beginning reluctantly to understand what is actually going on. This is a dangerous game to play, and I'll come on to that, why it's so dangerous in a minute. We have the Middle East, where again, from our Royal Air Force Base in Cyprus and Akrotiri, we are feeding into the Israelis military intelligence, and we're giving military help, both covert and overt, to a certain extent, to the Israelis in their conflict with other quite significant powers in the region, and of course the main one at the moment being Iran. And I did warn some time ago that Iran is not the Iran of 40 years ago. They're very highly sophisticated. They've got highly sophisticated weaponry, which is what the Israelis are now beginning to find out. How their intelligence and Mossad could have been quite so wrong and all that, I don't know. But they were, and Israel are now getting punished for it. But it's not just a question of Iran and Israel, and of course the United States and Britain backing heavily Israel, which is another dangerous game to play. You have the other regional powers. Turkey is a very serious regional power, and they have their own fish to fry, as it were. They've got their own problems there with all sorts of ancient and historic problems which can destabilize them, and territorial claims, so on and so forth. And we have the same in Syria and flashpoints that perhaps we haven't even considered. But of course the Middle East is, and always has been, an enormously complex situation. Now my view, and I think this is a Gladstonian liberal view, one might even argue a Palmerstonian view, that these places are, broadly speaking, nothing to do with us. There is no great importance strategically to Great Britain in these places. And only bad can come of it, so because we can be sucked in. And of course the greatest example is that when you get a very complicated situation was in August 1914, when we were sucked into that dreadful war, which is no business of ours. It seems we can't keep our nose out. And MI6, and I've called for the disestablishment of MI6 in the past, they are prodding the Russian Federation. They're always prodding. They're prodding Iran, so on and so forth. So it's going to MI6 or the deep state in this country, or Washington wanting to be drawn into this war, is one thing. But of course, in modern war, as the Israelis in Tel Aviv and Haifa begin to find out, you can't watch them on the telly and think it's got nothing to do with you. because very soon it'll be coming up Acacia Avenue and you'll find you're in the poo, or your children are in the poo, and so on and so forth. You can't avoid it in modern warfare, and we have a new dynamic, a very serious new dynamic, and that is these hypersonic missiles. And of course the Russian Federation have the Oreshnik missiles, and I've mentioned this before. There is no defence against these missiles any more than our colonial wars. Native troops with spears could resist modern artillery. They just couldn't do it. No matter how brave you are or how committed you are. That's, I'm afraid, the case in point. So if we prod them too far and they lose their temper and they stop becoming quite as non-confrontational as they have been in the past with other major powers, and certainly there are those in the Kremlin who would like to see that happen, the Russian Federation, and if we push too far, there will be other places as well who have access to these hypersonic weapons. There's absolutely nothing we can do about it. They can attack us with impunity. And what I'm suggesting is, in whose interest? And that is it in your interest, your family's interest, your business interest, your children's interest? The answer to those, no. It's bankers and deep state and arms manufacturers, and it was ever thus who make a profit out of war. Not you. Not you. So you must insist wherever you can, with your own MPs or whomsoever you vote for, that we must stay out of these problems. There's no great strategic value to Great Britain in getting involved. So consider that very carefully and do your own homework. And it's normally on non-MSM media that you'll find out what's actually going on. We still have, do we not, a sort of a major source of surprise that the war in the Ukraine is nearly over, and it's quite likely the Russian Federation will be in Kiev very shortly. They've crossed the river. They didn't want to do that, but we pulled out of the peace plan in April 2022, and Boris Johnson sorted that. No good comes of these things. No good comes to them. Peace is much better. I'm not a pacifist, and I've said this many occasions. I'm not a pacifist. But really, we must look after our own interests and not the interests of other people hundreds or thousands of miles away who have historical quarrels which are probably unsolvable. Let's keep our nose out and let's keep a strong defence force for ourselves if we are under any threat. But if we don't poke our nose in elsewhere, we won't be under threat. So we need to learn to mind our own business. So will the banks and mainstream media please understand this before we get ourselves in too deep as we did in 1914, and there's no drawing back. Contemplate it, think about it, please. As most of you know, my work is very heavily independently research based, and I get my information from all over the world. It would help if you press the subscribe button and the little bell next to it, because the more subscribers I have, the more likely it is that international independent research institutes will share their material with me. It's most helpful, and then of course I automatically share it with you. So surprise, won't cost you anything. Thank you very much.